We talked about Yoknapedia. Yoknapedia was a project that I developed with two sections of students at Hunter College and a single author course on the work of William Faulkner. The name refers to the fictional county, as many viewers will know, in which Faulkner based most of his fiction. And my investment in the course was to try to get as much of the student writing as possible to happen in a sort of practical, communicative situation where students were writing not just for me, but were writing for each other and ultimately for a broad public of peers. So each student was assigned various entries in an encyclopedia that was glossing or mapping, if you will, the territory of Yoknapatawpha County. So each student produced minimum 3 short entries, and short entries might cover such arcane topics as Faulkner's distinctive vernacular. So there's an entry on puzzle gutted, which apparently is what happens when livestock eat too much green material. Students did at least 2 medium entries, and medium entries would typically be short biographies of characters, so Benji Compson in The Sound of the Fury, for example. And the long entries look a lot like standard term papers. So those were media research projects in which students wrote, say, 3,000, 4,000 word, well-researched, properly formatted essays on topics of very broad import in the county. So miscegenation, the Civil War, the cult of virginity, sort of more substantive topics that required longer treatment. I think it benefited students various ways. The thing that was most striking to me from the beginning in terms of the payoff would be that students would get out of this kind of alien relationship to doing the work of literary criticism. I think students often feel this kind of performance anxiety with regard to the professor. The professor is presumed to be the expert. Students are writing up into this kind of foreign mode, this sort of foreign discourse that they think is what the professor wants to hear. Instead, I wanted them to think about not an imagined communicative situation, but a real situation. Imagine what peers would need to know about these texts to make them more interesting, more lively, more comprehensible. And so I think the students really rose to that challenge. It was very easy for them to envision the kind of reader that they were writing for. And I think that they saw a practical benefit to what they were writing. In essence, they were writing what they wish they could have read prior to reading these very formidable, very challenging texts in the first place. I got a couple of student comments to that effect. The most illustrative one was from an excellent student who was a BA student, an undergraduate student, who said that he often feels like when he's trying to write sort of standard literary critical papers, especially term papers, he always feels that he's not quite making the mark. So he feels that he's read journal articles in the discipline. He knows he's not writing something of that sophistication or that length or that depth or what have you, but he felt that he could write an excellent encyclopedia entry while still using these close reading skills and research skills that are a part of the discipline. So I was very gratified to hear that, and I do think that many students felt that this was a genre or mode of writing that was more comfortable to them, closer to where they come from. In the future, I would love to teach the course again, and I think that having the encyclopedia to continue to build on would push me in a couple of different directions. First, I think it would challenge students to find new material to gloss now that a lot of the sort of low-hanging fruit has been picked. And I think that will really emphasize for students that they will read more actively, trying to sort of comb over the text to find new things to write about. Second, I think it would challenge me to assign new texts. So often Faulkner courses, especially at the undergraduate level, focus on this kind of major period novels, The Sound of the Fury, As I Lay Dying, Light in August, Absalom, Absalom. And so I think this project will push me to assign less often read novels, which I think would be very stimulating and fun for me and for the students. The second way in which this might develop in the future is already starting to come to fruition a bit, in that scholars and even high school teachers are starting to find the resource. It's available open online and contact me about how they might use it in their classes. So most recently, a wonderful Australian scholar, a young scholar, contacted me out of the blue and said that she was going to be visiting at NYU. And so we had coffee last week, and she's very interested to use it in an ongoing class this semester with her students. I'm going to address her class and talk to them about the project. And I really hope that students at other institutions start to build on this thing. I designed it from the beginning as an open educational resource, an OER, and really love the idea that it would bring students together from different campuses, from different parts of the country, potentially different parts of the world, to engage in criticism and discussion of this author who envisioned his work, as he said, as a postage stamp of native soil. I think Yoknapedia kind of allows us to take this work and really stamp it and send it out and see if it can't create kind of conversations across all kinds of boundaries.